Omaha is just like a really unique place. There's so many like nooks and crannies full of history.
Blake Ersch, a former World Herald features reporter, kind of summed up the mission for Curious Omaha right there. And this story features a place with literal nooks and crannies. The old St. Joseph's Hospital grotto that has stood in the Dahlman neighborhood since around 1910, though it's been shuttered now for over a decade.
I remember when I drove out to see it for the first time, I didn't even know it was there.
Despite being almost completely overgrown, Blake found the grotto and wrote about it in 2016. It attracted attention and conjured up memories. He wouldn't say that he cracked the story, but he did piece together the grotto's actual origin and history.
The story that emerged just about the grotto's history involving mental health, that was a far more poignant story than I anticipated. It certainly surprised me, and I was glad that it did, because I think that's something that all of us can relate to.
Before we dig into that, here's Beth Cody with the definition of a grotto. A curious aspect of the St. Joseph's Grotto is that it's freestanding and enclosed.
It's a natural or artificial cave or covered recess, and the grottos that we're talking about, they're rocks or concrete and rocks that are stacked into a mound that has a cave shape on the front or an interior cave.
After Blake's story went to press, Beth, a garden historian, dug even deeper. She runs a website about the Lourdes grottos of North America, which are made to replicate a natural cave in France where the Virgin Mary appeared. She writes about Edward Koenig, a German immigrant who made a name for himself as a landscape designer and was especially known as a traveling grotto builder.
I'm certain he was trained in the skills of building grottos, so that's what he wanted to do here. And I don't think anybody else was doing that as a profession at the time when he landed here in 1906.
According to legend, Edward built the St. Joseph's Grotto with no written plans and by hand, with only volunteer helpers from the hospital. But why did the hospital commission it?
Catholics use grottos as places to pray and for showing devotion to the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus. And that's why a Lourdes grotto would have been built at a hospital, because of the healing water that is at Lourdes in France.
I asked Beth about the other saint statue that was once in the grotto. She told me that it's not unusual to include additional saints, and St. Joseph's was one of the earlier hospitals to recognize mental illness as a treatable condition. Enter St. Dymphna, patron saint of the mentally ill.
To the nuns who were running the hospital, you would want an additional saint in there, especially one associated with mental illness, and it's wonderful that they recognize that so early on.
Most human-made grottos are open, with the cave often facing a peaceful patio or garden. Since this grotto is enclosed, it allegedly attracted illegal activity. Grace University, which owned the grounds from 2002 to 11, locked it up.
You talk to 100 people, and one will know what you're talking about. It was always one of Omaha's best-kept secrets.
That's Mike Miller, amateur photographer and self-described seeker.
Having been born at St. Joe's and some other history there, I thought I'd give it a visit someday.
He got inside the grotto before it was shut down for good, but it was empty.
You could see where there was either a communion rail or altar, places where people had gone in and lit candles, and there was like indentations in the walls where there was one statuary.
Mike has quite a few family connections to St. Joseph's, and he's painted a picture in his head about his great-great-uncle.
There's always part of me that it kind of envisions him like pushing a wheelbarrow, helping out put this thing together.
So what's the future for the grotto? As far as anyone knows, the current owners have no plans.
I wish it was still available to the public. I hope it gets on Register of Historic Places someday and gets some protection.
Beth, meanwhile, suggests that someone should attempt to move it.
The worst that can happen is the whole thing will fall down and be destroyed, but it's going to happen anyway. If it just sits there, it will eventually fall down and be destroyed.
A quiet place reserved for respite and reflection? Count me in. I'm Andy Herman for Curious Omaha.